Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and lately there has been quite a bit of Allosaurus talk, especially when it comes to the Jurassic World style Allosaurus, because we had the unveiling of the Hammond Collection Allosaurus. There was also the Jurassic Justin Allosaurus that went up for pre-order, but there was also this Allosaurus that had come out a little ways back, and I actually never got around to acquiring one and reviewing it, but I now have it here. This is the Basic Mattel Jurassic World Allosaurus. Now this one, I was kind of trying to wait it out for because the only place I could find to purchase it is on Big Bad Toy Store. I can't find anywhere else that's selling this figure, and I really wanted to get a hold of it with an individual purchase because the only way to buy it on Big Bad Toy Store is if you purchase it in a lot with 4 figures all together, and the other 3 I already had, so I really didn't need to spend, it was like $50 or something just to get this figure here, but unfortunately that's what I had to do to get a hold of this one. But luckily, again, I do still have 3 others. Actually, I think maybe on the back it'll show me all of the ones that are, oh boy, it's going to be so hard because these figures are so tall, you can't really stand them up. I try to, put them sideways, but here's the Allosaurus in the packaging. There was also a Troceraptor, Tiger, the Concavinator, and I think the Spinosaurus, and I have all of those, but I'm just going to repaint them, so it's not a total loss. So, I can still enjoy those figures. It's just that I already had them. Or maybe I'll just keep them in the packaging. I don't know yet because, it is a bit of a different style packaging compared to previous releases. But as you can see, as far as this version of the Allosaurus goes, you can basically see it there within the window, or at least the head sculpt of the Allosaurus. Again, it looks kind of like your more recent Allosaurus offerings where it has a bit of an awkward look, but the Hammond Collection one looks to definitely be way better than this. But regardless, we're going to pop this out of the box and we'll check it out right now. So here is our Allosaurus out of the packaging, and I'm a little bit torn on this one because in hand I feel like it looks a little bit nicer than the promo images had led me to believe it would. I feel like the promo images made it look insanely awkward, and in person it's not nearly as awkward, but there are definitely some ugly seams throughout the course of the entire figure, which is surprising, not something I was expecting from a Mattel release. But at least on the plus side, again, it does look a little bit better than I was thinking it would. I wish it just had more paintwork. As always, when they say basic, they mean basic. But let's go ahead, jump to a closer look, and we'll check it out further from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Allosaurus, again, I think the head sculpt looks a little better than some of the other recent Allosaurus figures. And one thing that looks, in my opinion, a little better on this would be the teeth, because a lot of the problem with the Allosaurus figures recently, they had really super awkward looking teeth. And I feel like although these don't look great, they do look better than a lot of the others have. You can see that as far as coloration goes, we basically have like a dark greenish brown sort of tone for the lower body, and I would say the primary body color, and then you have a darker blue moving up and over the top of the Allosaurus, and you can see it, come through the eye socket up toward the snout into the nostril area. There are some scars sculpted out there on the face of the Allosaurus, which is pretty cool. The eye is painted with a yellow. We don't have a black pupil. We basically just have a dark blue pupil, which is the dark blue color that we have there. But right away, you can see again what I was speaking of when I mentioned the seams. Like, the seam is really ugly right here. It doesn't mesh with the body, honestly, at all. And you can see that seam follow along the back of the Allosaurus all the way down, which is super strange that they would do that. It's not something I'm used to. I mean, Mattel does add figures that have, extra pieces that go in and you can see a seam, but I feel like it's not something that you usually see on the basic figures. But unfortunately, this Allosaurus definitely has that going on, and it doesn't look good. But at least the detailing of that area looks quite nice. You can see the detail in the crests actually looks really good. And as you move down along the back of the Allosaurus with that extra piece that has been added, of course, it is a dark blue. It was created in that dark blue color. But you can see the detail does look really good, really vibrant up there, which is a huge plus for the figure. Another thing that is a little bit of a bummer is the fact that the teeth are unpainted. Now, that's very common when it comes to the basic figures, but you can see there is a gloss coat added to it, and I never understood why, if they're going to add a gloss coat to it, why would they not just paint the teeth? Makes no sense to me. I wish they would have just painted them. It would have looked a lot better, and they could have still kept their basic visual for this figure. But moving through the face, the scale detail again continues to look really quite nice. I honestly wouldn't mind repainting this one. I feel like it's, when it comes to the Chaos Theory Allosaurus figures that were released, this is the best one as far as the overall appearance goes, in my opinion. Like, I think it looks better than the Super Colossal, and forget what the other mainline version was, but I think it looks better than that one as well when it comes to the sculpt. But as you move back here into the neck, you can see the scale detail continues to look really nice, finer scaling as you move down into the throat. We have the dark blue following along the back there and kind of patterning down, but as you lead here a little bit past the shoulder, you can see it disappears, and then the only dark blue we basically have is that extra piece that was added on. Moving down into the arms, you can see again nice variation to the sizes and detailing here to the scales. You can see the muscle definition in the arm. Moving down into the hand, the scoots and the fingers are very nicely done. You've got some nicely sculpted nails. They almost have a genuine sharp look to them, which is a plus. And they kind of have a little bit of a glossy look to them, but not massively glossy. Not like the teeth where it just kind of jumps out at you, but it kind of looks a little satiny. And you can see the nails of the toes, though, do actually have that gloss coat, which is a plus. That definitely looks quite nice as far as the glossy look of the nails. But again, I would have definitely preferred actual nail paint. But as you move up into the stomach region of the Allosaurus, you can kind of make out the rib cage right there. You can also see, again, some nice scale detail. These figures are always extremely skinny, and you can see that when you look at it from up above. So the rib cage showing makes sense because this Allosaurus looks quite starved. But as you move along, the scale detail continues to look nice. I would think a dark wash would really work wonders on this figure. Moving down into the thigh, you can see the muscle definition, and again, the scale detail continues to look really good as you move through the entire figure. You've got the knee here in the front, the nice big bulging calf muscle in the back, and then you move down into the foot sculpt. You've got some scoots moving down the toes, some really vibrant scale detail moving down through the sides of the feet, down into the sides of the toes. You can see the dew claw is sculpted, but just not painted. Kind of has a satin shine to it as well, though. And then as you move back up into the tail, you can see again another ugly seam right here where this extra, actually, I don't even know what's going on here. So, okay, it looks like this was just one piece, and then the rest of the tail comes up and over the top, and that's a second piece. And again, the seams are really quite ugly for that area, just like we saw up here. So, and also there's no coloration out onto the tail, which is pretty standard for Mattel, especially for basic figures. The tail, though, is really short, which is weird because a lot of the time previously, the older basic figures, if you go back and look at them, the tail length was actually really nice. It was one of the few lines of Mattel that we actually got that had nice tail length. But these ones, for some reason, the last few just have not had good tail length. I don't know why. They are consistently too short. But when you look at the opposing side, it's going to look pretty much the same over here. No real differences outside of the fact that it doesn't have the scars on the face here on this side. And as you move down, you can see everything else looks the same. Pretty much the leg here is the only really big difference because it's taking a step forward on this side compared to trailing on the other side. And then again, the tail curves away from us on this side slightly, but not enough to really make a difference on the overall visual. You can see the underside also looks pretty decent, but again, super thin. Articulation wise, you do have the articulation of the arms forward and back. You also have legs forward and back, swivel ankles, and tail articulation, which can go down, left, right, up, all over the place. It can't swivel. It kind of feels like it should, but the shape of the tail being so thin stops it from actually swiveling. But no jaw articulation or anything like that, as per usual when it comes to these figures. I really would have liked to have seen the blind eye on this one, but when it comes to the basics, they're given, again, very little love, so I would have been pretty surprised had they actually given this one the blind eye and not the mainline figures. But regardless, again, when it comes to an Allosaurus in the Mattel line, he's not terrible looking, I guess, in my opinion. Again, a little bit better, I would say, than the other more recent Chaos Theory Allosaurus offerings. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at 13¼ inches or about 33, maybe heading toward 33.5 centimeters, but not quite there. I always find it amusing, though, because they're technically labeled as the 12-inch basics, but clearly this one is not 12 inches. As far as a height goes, in the position it's currently standing in, which is kind of like a almost like a creepy almost stocking sort of a pose, you were looking at just shy of 5¼ inches or a little under 13½ centimeters. But when it comes to figures like this, of course, being articulated, you can make it go up really tall if you want to, so you could obviously change the height of the Allosaurus to pretty much whatever you want, as long as, again, you position it upward. But as far as size comparison goes, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Basic Allosaurus. And you can see, again, it's pretty much exactly the size you would expect it to be. The basic figures don't really stray too far as the size goes. Like, no matter what species it is, they're always the same size, basically, as far as each other goes. The only difference would be at times the length, because the tails are shorter on the newer ones and the tails were longer on the older ones. But they are roughly, as far as like body mass and everything goes, the same size continuously. So I don't feel like we really need to do a bunch of comparisons with this Allosaurus. But I will do one other comparison, and that is with what I would say was Mattel's best Allosaurus prior to the Hammond Collection version coming, which is the extreme damage version. I think that's what this one was, for the Allosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. And you can see again that obviously the basic version is quite a bit smaller than this Allosaurus, but I wanted to do this comparison just to basically show off the fact that if you do get the basic version, you can use it as like a juvenile Allosaurus compared to some of the larger versions that Mattel has recently released. So this Mattel Jurassic World Chaos Theory basic 12-inch Allosaurus is kind of fun, actually. He's more fun in person than I was expecting him to be. I was kind of like expecting to really not like the figure, but since I had all of the other basics, it was pretty much killing me at this point that I didn't get a hold of this one. And again, waiting for somebody to stock this with an individual listing, it just wasn't happening. So I got tired of it. I just placed the order on Big Bad Toy Store, and I will say I'm actually quite happy with the figure in person. The legs looked, for some reason, disturbingly long in the original promo images, and although they do still look a bit long on this version, I think it looks better and a little bit more natural looking in person compared to the original promo images. The tail, of course, though, is really short and definitely should have been longer, and the proportions as a whole are absolutely not great, but they're not terrible, I will say that. The sculpt, though, is definitely one of the nicest versions of the Allosaurus, in my opinion, that we've seen from Mattel over the last few releases, because they really went off course with the Allosaurus for quite some time there. Again, they were just looking super strange and awkward, and although this one isn't perfect, I still feel like specifically the head has been continuously the problem, and I feel like the head looks better on this one than it has on quite a few others. Unfortunately, though, we are stuck with a bunch of awkward seams on this one where other pieces are added and the dinosaur is kind of assembled, so I don't think that looks all that great. Could have definitely looked a little bit better, but overall, it's pretty much what I expect from a basic figure. So again, not much in the way of paint apps, some okay articulation, but not much in that area either, but still a pretty cool looking version of the Allosaurus. So if you are interested, unfortunately, the only place would be Big Bad Toy Store, where you would have to purchase the entire wave of these. But if you don't have any of the others, then sure, it's a great idea. If you do have some of the others, then maybe you can resell them at some point or repaint them. I don't know. Up to you guys. Until I can find an individual listing, that's the only way I know of to purchase this. But again, check the link in the description if you want to grab this one and add it to your collection. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.